In our home, Mark and I have very different strengths, so we provide a really good balance for one another. In our day-to-day lives, our passions are very different too, but I know that we both believe that we can make a difference. Education and politics can both seem like overwhelming and daunting tasks when you think about them as a whole, but when you break them down into their smaller, more personal parts, then you can understand how our passions are the same and why we both believe that we can make a difference. One child at a time, one person at a time, one vote at a time, one congressman at a time. We can make a difference. Please help me to help Mark to make that difference. Stand with me and stand with my voice as we stand with Mark. Please welcome my husband and hopefully your next congressman, Mark Otto.
Let me take a moment to introduce myself and my family. My name is Mark Otto. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I am a Republican. I'm a Republican who believes in smaller government, individual liberty, and the exceptionality of the American people. My oldest son, Eric, is a sophomore at Cleveland High School. Haddon attends Cleveland Middle School. And my youngest son, Jackson, Action Jackson, is a student, not at Valenta, that's for you, at Westview Elementary School. I could not be more pleased or more proud of my boys. I have tried to instill in them a sense of independence, the ability to think for themselves, and a spirit of freedom that is the core of America. I believe I have succeeded in that. Perhaps even too much, as some of their teachers could probably attest, Eric. It has been said that behind every good man stands a good woman. In our case, however, my wife Beth does not stand behind me. She stands beside me, and I stand beside her. She is truly the backbone of our family and my inspiration every day. And with the possible exception of my father, I am the luckiest husband on earth. Thank you, Mark. Like many of you, I feel betrayed. Betrayed by Washington, betrayed by the political establishment, and betrayed by my party, the Republican Party. I've been dedicated to the Republican Party, and specifically to the conservative cause, for nearly 15 years now. I've volunteered countless hours on behalf of dozens of Republican campaigns. I've written letters, made phone calls, knocked on doors, and as many of you know, eaten a lot of pizza and barbecue. Many of you have done the same, and I want to thank you all for your hard work and dedication to our party. Thank you. I'm a former chairman of the Johnston County Young Republicans, was a member of the Johnston County Republican Party Executive Committee, sat on the North Carolina Republican State Central Committee, and I was the chairman of the 2nd Congressional District Republican Party when we defeated Bob Etheridge in 2010. Yet I feel betrayed by the very people I worked so hard to help elect. Worse still, I urge my friends, my family, and my fellow conservative voters to support them too. When they go to Washington and vote against our values for their own personal political gain, it is like being stabbed in the back. I will no longer tolerate representatives in Congress who talk the talk, but refuse to walk the walk. I will use what I have learned in my years of political experience to challenge the very establishment I helped to empower. In short, I am taking a stand. I'm taking a stand against the powerful political establishment, against the go-along to get-along mentality in Washington, and against the politicians who side with them. That is why today I'm kicking off my campaign for the Republican Party nomination in the 7th Congressional District of North Carolina. 2 weeks ago, Congress voted to approve an omnibus spending package negotiated by Nancy Pelosi and Republican House Speaker Paul Ryan. This omnibus bill is a Democrat's dream. And yet, despite voters entrusting Republicans with control of both the House and the Senate, this omnibus spending package that funds President Obama's top priorities passed. How is this possible? Please understand what is in this omnibus bill that your Congressman, David Rouzer, voted for. Full funding for Planned Parenthood. Full funding for President Obama's illegal executive amnesty orders. Full funding for Obama's refugee resettlement program to relocate refugees from known Muslim terrorist states and resettle them here in our communities. $1.6 billion to resettle illegal immigrants from now through the year 2018. They title that Entrant Assistance. $0 to build a border fence that Congress approved and promised to build in 2006. The bill quadruples the number of foreign guest workers to be brought into the United States, taking more American jobs, and fully funds the President's global warming scheme. Do those sound like conservative principles to you?
No.
Why would Congressman Rouzer vote for a bill that betrays so many of our core conservative values? Shortly before that vote, the American Action Network, which is the House leadership-aligned political action committee, announced a multi-million-dollar campaign blitz to prop up certain Republican congressmen. David Rouzer is one of those congressmen. Congressman Rouzer sided against our values and with the political establishment. He voted yes. David voted with John Boehner 96% of the time. And he voted with new House Speaker Paul Ryan and with Nancy Pelosi to pass the omnibus. We know now where David really stands and who he chooses to stand with. But the truth is, I do not want to single out Congressman Rouzer alone. My intent during this campaign is not to paint him as the worst politician in Washington. He's not. David is just like countless others who have gone to Washington and embraced the establishment. That is the peril of wanting to be a career politician. Washington is filled with congressmen and senators just like him. But that only serves to emphasize the reason I chose to take on this task. It's time to end politics as usual and change the way the system operates. Not by playing by their rules, but by challenging their rules and confronting them head on. Where do you stand, and who do you stand with? Do you stand with Planned Parenthood? No. Did you elect David Rouzer to go to Washington to fund Planned Parenthood with taxpayer dollars? Your taxpayer dollars?
No.
Do you stand with the sanctuary cities that refuse to report to federal immigration authorities illegal immigrants who are arrested, even convicted of violent crimes? Did you send Congressman Rouzer to Washington to fund these sanctuary cities with your tax dollars?
No.
Or do you stand where I stand? That no legislation funding sanctuary cities should ever pass. Do you stand with David and the establishment Republicans who fund Obamacare while campaigning year after year on the promise to repeal it? Do you support increasing the national debt, nearly another $1 trillion every single year? Or do you want a congressman who is not afraid to use the constitutionally enumerated power of the purse as a check and balance against the executive office? Where do you stand, and who do you stand with? Do you stand with President Obama and his plan to relocate Muslim refugees from terrorist nations inside the United States here in our communities? Did you send David Rouzer to fund that? Where do you stand, and who will you stand with? We know where David stands, and we know who David stands with. Do you want a congressman who talks the talk, but refuses to walk the walk? or a congressman who is willing to stand behind his words with actions and with his vote every single time. Where do you stand, and who will you stand with? I'll tell you exactly where I stand. I make this solemn vow to you today. If elected to Congress, I assure you, when House Speaker Paul Ryan calls my office to ask how I'm going to vote on a certain bill or budget, my answer is simply this. Mr. Ryan, if it contains funding for Planned Parenthood, my vote is no. If it contains any funding for Obamacare, my vote is no. If it contains funding to relocate illegal immigrants into our communities, if it contains funding for the President's illegal executive amnesty actions, or if it contains funding to resettle Muslim immigrants here in our communities, my vote is no. I vow never to vote for any resolution, omnibus, or any other budget bill that directly violates our conservative principles. I will be a consistently conservative congressman. Speaker Ryan, with all due respect, sir, don't waste your time calling me. My vote is no. Congressman Rouser is well funded and fully backed by the political establishment, both in Raleigh and in Washington. I understand how this process works. This isn't my first rodeo. I have no illusions about that. I know how they take care of those who take care of them. But I have one thing the special interests, the political establishment, and the party apparatus do not have. Core conservative values that I share with so many of you. Values that must never be sacrificed or traded at any time ever for political power or political favor. America is at a crossroads, and so is our Republican Party. But it's not too late to preserve the integrity and secure the future of both our party and our country. So I ask all of you here today to ask yourselves, where will you stand, and who will you stand with? Stand with me. Stand with me, and we'll have a congressman who will never fund Planned Parenthood. Stand with me, and we'll have a representative that will never vote to increase our national debt. Stand with me, and rest assured your congressman will never fund Obama's illegal executive amnesty actions. Stand with me, and I will stand up for you. This is our moment. This is our time. I know that if conservatives stand together, we will succeed. We must succeed. Stand with me. We simply cannot afford to wait any longer. I stand ready to lay it all on the line for you. To face the attacks, the accusations, the mudslinging, everything that comes with challenging a well-funded incumbent congressman. Stand with me. I'm truly blessed to have a wife who is willing to stand with me, a family who is willing to stand with me. And so I'm asking all of you to stand with me too. Stand with me now. Stand with me, and together we will restore our party to its conservative principles. Reclaim our great republic and prosper for generations to come. Stand with me now, and I will stand with you always.